Yes, we can hear you. Go on.
Amerix, nice. Thanks for inviting me. Sorry I'm late. Yeah, and I would want to carry on with your point about the collapsing industry. You were talking about the sugar belt. You were talking about all the companies and all the outgrower farms which were supporting small holder, farmers and whatnot. And being from Thika, I have the same kind of experience. So Thika was an industrial town. It used to be called the Birmingham of Kenya. So there were all these companies, especially in the textile industry. There was KTM, there was what, and so because of the structural adjustment programs, they came with some malicious or notorious or mischievous attachments or riders that you must liberalize, you must open your market for cheap imports, and that's how the Mutumba sector grew. And so we are here glorifying the Gikomba industry and whatnot. We are glorifying them because of importing second-hand clothes. But essentially, the only reason why new clothes or brand new clothes are expensive in Kenya is because of taxes, is because of the environment which has made it unconducive to produce. So it goes the entire chain. They dropped all the subsidies, all the incentives they used to give to farmers who used to grow cotton or who used to rear sheep for wool, and so they made domestic production expensive, and then we opened ourselves for cheap imports. A lot of companies now shut down because they could no longer sustain, not just on the production. So I've seen Thika move from being, that semi-urban, plush town into being just another, shithole town. Because of that, because of the parliament. Our problem begins and ends with parliaments when they talk about these structural adjustment programs. You look at when the World Bank and IMF started implementing that, they then created this committee. It was called a privatization committee, and then there was the Ndegwa family. You guys think so highly about the Ndegwa family because they own NIC and NCBA, but if you look, their father, who was once a central bank governor called Philip Ndegwa, was the chairman of that privatization commission or committee that was formed in conjunction with the World Bank and the IMF, so that we can be part of these structural adjustment programs, conditionalities for us to access loans so as to bridge the deficit that has been created by bad governance. So Philip Ndegwa becomes the chairman of the privatization commission. What does he first do? Anajichotea pesa zake. He first grabs a few companies. There was Nairobi Airport Services called NAS. There were many other companies which were grabbed during that period. But then you'll realize that the World Bank is hiding behind some of these government officials, and then they make it as if that, we are selling these parastatals to clear our debt. But no, it is them who are grabbing. So during that period is when we saw the privatization of companies like Kenya Power. If you look at Kenya Power, since it was privatized, has our power bills, have they been cheaper or more? So the privatization was just a hoodwink. It was just a scam crafted for a few elites like Mamangina to grab our state-owned corporations. Look at Safaricom. During the same period, we had the Kenya Post and Telecommunications Corporation. Then, because of some mambo jumbo and magic over here, we were told it must be privatized. And so Safaricom was a department under the Kenya Post and Telecommunications Corporation. You understand? And that's where we have these clowns like Gideon Moi owning Mobitelea, 5% of Safaricom, given for free. under the guise that Vodafone is the one which is buying it, but Vodafone was giving 5% to Gideon Moi as a bribe because of acquiring Safaricom, which was a department of Kenya Post and Telecommunications Corporation. Look at something like Kenya Airways. We were told and we were fashioned. I remember I was reading the newspapers, I was very young, and they told us that privatization is a quick fix panacea, that because we are going to privatize, things are going to be better. Now, because the old generation of useless bastards, the boomers, if you are a boomer over here and you're there, you're a useless bastard, they bought into the idea of privatization. They bought into the idea of, let's get the golden handshake, and being stupid as they are, and even today they are still very stupid, they signed themselves up for a suicide. And so Kenya Airways, which was a fully state-owned corporation, has changed hands. It was sold first to KLM, and then there was this partnership between KLM, and then what they did is now, when they got to now the worst part, which was during the Uhuru era, they started selling our primest landing spots. For instance, Kenya Airways used to land in London at 6:10 a.m. There was a flight leaving Nairobi to London at 6:10. They sold that. They sold that to some, I don't know whether it's Bahrain or one of those companies or one of those countries. They sold that slot to bridge the deficit about debt that we don't know how it was incurred. We don't know how Kenya Airways got broke. We don't know how Kenya Airways got into debt, but somehow we have, because that is, your landing slot is almost like a sovereign parcel of land. You sell it, you concede it to another country to bridge problems that you yourselves have created. And so when we are talking about auditing debt, Jimmy Wajegi is talking about odious debt. If we are talking about it, we are not just limiting ourselves to the debt. We are looking at the atrocities committed at the turn of the 80s to the 90s, where now that character, that clown called Philip Ndegwa, who was a central bank governor, who you guys are shamelessly praising today because they are rich, because you guys, your self-esteem has been suppressed. You are praising that clown, saying that they are rich, but they themselves stole their wealth is accrued. I used to read articles that Philip Ndegwa is rich. He was the first Kenyan to bank 1 billion. How are you banking 1 fucking billion? You have no manufacturing company. You're not a farmer of repute. You're not an innovator or inventor. And then you bank 1 billion. Where did you get that fucking money? These are questions when, anytime we confront the ruling elite, we tell them, hey, can you tell us how you acquired this money? Because there was a time they used to flaunt their money. They used to flaunt these stories. Oh, I used to read those silly, nonsensical stories by somebody like Jenga Karume. Jenga Karume says, I used to sell charcoal. Who the fuck would believe that charcoal would make you a billionaire? Those are not, unless you're exporting that charcoal to Mars or to Jupiter as an alternative energy source. But we've been fed with lies. We've been fed with cock and bull stories pushed by the mainstream media, shameless journalists, shameless editors who have you just run with any rubbish. You don't want to question how this person acquired this wealth. They were in government. They used to do X, Y, and Z, and somehow they landed into a lot of money. And because there were no checks and balances, suddenly they are billionaires and they are being praised. They are being worshipped by the church. We have the corrupt clergy. I see people are calling them kilaji. But this is the historical injustices that we have, especially from the economic front. It has to be all the companies that were grabbed by people hiding behind the narrative of privatization. The people who hid behind the narrative of a golden handshake. People were told, hey, you take a golden handshake, you'll go home. And by the time those guys were taking a golden handshake and leaving state-owned corporations, which were permanent and pensionable, they went to the villages and went to rot there to die. So this is, now we get to the sugar belt. Amerix was talking about it. He has grown up from there. His family has, I'm from the coffee sector. The coffee sector has supported me. Somehow it collapsed. And you are talking right now, you go to Kiambu Road right now, all the coffee is being chopped down, is being turned to real estate. Why? Because of structural deficiencies created by these fucking members of parliament, the guys we are entertaining, the guys you guys think are gods or something. They go and pass laws which are passed or which are crafted or which are conjured somewhere, and then they come and now start cooking narratives and telling you what. I was telling you about sugar. There was this clown called Ivan Skidero. Ivan Skidero, by the time he became the Mumia's sugar CEO, he is from the sugar belt, but the interests of the farmers were the last thing on his mind. He wanted. By the time he got there, he went to maneuver his way into getting import licenses so that they induce closures of the main sugar production, Sony, Mumias, and whatever, so that when they are shut down, they've been shut down under the guise of, oh, we have maintenance and whatnot. I think you used to see those whatever. Then they would import. Now, those sugar import licenses used to be approved by parliament, by idiots like who? Like Boni Kalawale, like this other idiot, what's his name? This Waluke. Those guys who pretend that they are members or they hail from the Western region were part and parcel of the destruction of the sugar industry. And I don't understand how you guys still worship them. How do you allow an idiot like Boni Kalawale to address you in a funeral or in a whatever? How? Because he has been part of the destruction of the sugar sector. The sugar sector in the coffee sector in Mount Kenya has been destroyed by none other than fucking MPs from Mount Kenya region. So our problem begins and ends in parliament, but parliament has been an extension of the executive. And so what you needed to do, you just needed to go to treasury. You meet the bureaucratic pieces of shit in the treasury. You tell them, oh, this is how much you're getting. Can you sneak this amendment into the finance bill? And so finance bills every year, and what you used to call the budgets, became an overhaul of our entire economic structure. So they used to go and, coincidentally, believe it or not, I used to be close with the PS of Treasury many years ago called Joseph Kenywa. And one day I met him at his house and I told him, can we do a proposal for football? So we wanted, because my background is football, and we wanted to launch our sporting renaissance on the model of Britain, so that the government kind of like co-guarants the building of infrastructure. And I gave him the proposal, and then he organized a meeting for me at Treasury, and I met the budget committee. And I remember going, and I was very young, it was around 2008. And I remember going there, I was just finding guys, it was like Muhindis and it was just foreigners who were there, who went to give their budget committee. But I spoke to them, and instead of doing my project the way I had presented it, because it would have created a lot of jobs for the young people and we wouldn't be having the problem today, what did they do? They passed a law using my proposal where every constituency got 1 million shillings for football. I'm seeing some MPs who are in office at the time, they will tell you they got 1 million shillings for every constituency for football. Just know that was my proposal that was implemented inversely, because we are dealing with a bunch of stupid idiots in parliament, bureaucratic pieces of shit. And when we are saying that we want to get rid of and we want to overhaul our economic structure, we have to start with Treasury, we have to start with Central Bank, we have to start with the Ministry of Energy and other places where World Bank and IMF have seconded their stooges, their surrogates, to implement policies that are going to fuck us up. That's where we are going to start. So I'm bitter because I can see our Kenyans. I saw Boni Kalawale with some young people, and he's the one who has been there with Akina Kidero and Akina Waluke. They were destroying the sugar subsector. And so we are dependent on importation. Like now there was this Galana Kulalu, which has consumed a lot of money. They have only harvested, I don't know, only 100 bags since 2009. Where has that money been going to? These are glaring corruption undertakings by the people who you then now come to worship in church. They come and donate money. They come with words of cash. And you guys are just there worshiping them. You guys are there worshiping them because they are driving big cars. You have to understand that our Our oppression is intertwined with the current political establishment. So we need to overhaul everything. I saw some of you useless bastards. You have no shame, and you are saying Matiang'i. Matiang'i is the scandals. He's been there in the Roraka land scandal. He created this CBC, which has messed us up, and you are there without any honor or shame saying, yeah, Matiang'i, because you've been paid a few shillings. Come on, man. The same way we are dealing with Osama because of betrayal is the same way we are going to be dealing with you when you're making some psychotic and deluded proposals like Matiang'i for presidency. We're not moving behind. We are moving forward. This whole thing is one big charade. Well, our companies which had employed our people. And so I would see people, because you are used to your parents having money. You are used to your parents having money to pay your school fees, your hospital, and whatever. And then suddenly they've lost their jobs. You don't understand why they lost their jobs. But they used to work in they used to work in Mumias. They used to get a job. They used to work, and you used to also get healthcare attached to your parents. And somehow I would see people sinking into depression. And then what was the other solution that the boomers at the time came up with? Oh, let's immigrate. So all of them, let's go to America, let's go to Britain, let's go to where? But how long shall we run away from self-manufactured problems? Because you elect thugs, you elect idiots. These idiots then go and steal your money. You understand it's a chain, and you are part of it. You are an active participant. So the thing here is, we in our pursuit for progress, in our pursuit to overhaul this entire system, we are looking at Ruto. Ruto must fall. That is guaranteed, whether we like it or not. He is going to fall, because we have decided as a people that he is not he's not serving our interests. Anytime we have given an opportunity for him to speak in the media, to rise to the occasion, to tower above his parochial interests, he has gone on and to let us down. He's saying the dumbest shit. He's asked, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? He doesn't do anything. He says the worst thing. He has no sense of occasion. So we have agreed that he must go, whether it's 2027 or before, I don't know. It's the people to decide. But in the meantime, just look at the historical patterns from when World Bank started implementing the structural adjustment programs in the 1990s. The people who grabbed our companies. So when we are talking about audit, and I saw some audit committee made, it's just a mockery. These guys are insulting our collective intelligence. That those guys, they've put the most irrelevant of guys, they put the most useless of guys, because any committee that is talking about an audit without Okia Omtata and Jimmy Wanjigi is just a spectacular waste of time. So because we have detected the insincerity of these useless bastards, they have no intention of even meeting any of our requirements, because they have not done anything so far. They are talking about reshuffling, and we are saying all these CSs, PSs, heads of department, all of them need to go, because they are not ready to undertake such a purge. Then you structure your mind into a reality, a future, whether it will be 2027 and beyond, that we are overhauling the entire establishment. And when we are auditing, we are not just auditing the loans that Uhuru stole, because Uhuru must have stolen like 4 trillion shillings alone. We are not just auditing that. We are auditing where the problem started, and the problem started at the turn of the 80s to the 90s, where they grabbed our parastatals, which had employed our parents. Our industries, flagship industries, collapsed because of what? Tourism used to earn us foreign exchange. Coffee used to earn us foreign exchange. Pyrethrum, Sisal, everything, textile industry, nothing. Everything was collapsed so that we can favor a bunch of useless bastards called importers. And those importers, sorry, Americs, give me 1 minute. Those importers are the ones who are the authors. They are the orchestrators of our misfortune as Kenyans. And we must, because they have the power to influence policy, they have the power to influence laws. Your MPs go to the toilets, they are bribed with 10,000 shillings. Can you imagine a member of parliament being bribed with 10,000 shillings? He's on a payroll of 1 million. He has fuel allowance, he has everything, and he's being paid 10,000 shillings in the toilets of parliament to change the laws that is going to affect you. Come on, I'm going crazy over here. Sorry, Amerix. I apologize if I went overboard. I'm sorry.
It's a citizen assembly, so you are allowed to say whatever you want to say. Our common goal is one, our spirit is one, that we must overhaul the establishment. We must drain the swamp, because the swamp has been infested by crocodiles, pests, snakes. If there are people we need to pray for, they are the Kenyan journalists. The other day, I was reading an article that journalists at Standard have not been paid for 8 months. It is really, really heartbreaking. You can imagine a journalist is supposed to wear very good clothes. He or she must wear a very friendly face so that they can come on your screen and give you a story of a politician stealing money. And this journalist has nothing in the house, has not paid rent, doesn't know how they will go back. They have a car, yes, but they will park that car at their company parking lot. Then they will pick a matatu, go to the house. The other day, a journalist committed suicide. And we kept on asking ourselves, how can a journalist commit suicide? They look like they are happy. They go everywhere. They fly abroad. But the people who are facing the brunt of this economic decline, they are the journalists. And if a journalist is not empowered economically, they will not tell the true story. We might bash them. We might say all that we have about journalists and what they write. But just take time and sit with one. You'll cry. 8 months without a salary. And you expect that journalist to come in the morning, sit in a radio station, and tell the stories of the country. That is not possible. Our economy is declining. And as a people, if we don't stand up for our economy, we are done. Because it appears our president looks like a captive of other forces. That is not normal. The other day, UK did its election. They removed the World Economic Forum puppet and put there another puppet. They have jumped from a frying pan to the fire. Because this current puppet, the current prime minister, is the one who has been going around the world telling people about green energy and things like those. But goes to those meetings in a private jet. Ombachi, welcome.
Asante sana. First of all, thanks Gaitho. Gaitho, you know, watu wengi si ubash Gaitho hapa hivi Twitter, but he was amongst the first guys na yesi wa kuanza. Hiyo movement tayari ilikuwa imeanzanga TikTok a while back, but Gaitho ndo amongst the first people hii stuff ilianza kufesta upon them. But mimi sina mingi ya kusema. Mimi I usually judge events based on history and the probability of them repeating themselves again. Na kulingana na the recent events zimekuwa zikihappen ETL na hii historia ya Osama ya betrayal kulipwa. So sijui mbona we are entertaining people who've had a history of questionable characters, you know. Ndaongea straight to the point. Sijui kama Nyakundi naona uko hapo co-host. Nyakundi wewe ni extortionist. Nakumbuka there was someone here hapa hivi kwanza ameongelea story ya footballers. Nikasema ikaniuma, nikakumbuka hata mimi there was a time mimi na William Baka we were fighting for the rights of players hapo Union ililipa Nyakundi akaanza kututrash. Nyakundi wewe ni extortionist. Wewe tuna welcome your efforts kwa hii movement. People like you should be welcomed. Yes, but you should not be given any self importance. Wewe fanya kazi yako kwa sababu umeamua kufanya kazi yako because you're fighting because of what you believe. Si ati ni agenda, it's just facts.